our drive-in theater. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you, one that will provide several hours of pleasurable relaxation and diversion for you and your family. Did you fail to dress up for tonight's show? No tie, an old shirt and slacks, a house dress? Well, don't give it a thought. We're glad you came as you are. We just want you to enjoy yourselves. Don't forget to visit our refreshment center during the intermission or any time. You love the tasty array of snacks we have to offer. So will the youngsters. Everything is quality and so good. We hope you'll make this a weekly visit. Bring the family. Bring your friends. There are always wonderful new pictures to see, delightful snacks to nibble, a gay, pleasant evening for all. Oh, a word of caution. Don't drive over 10 miles an hour in the theater area for your safety's sake. And Mom or Pop, go with the kids when they leave the car. We hope you have a wonderful time. Come back soon. Wouldn't some hot buttered popcorn hit the spot right now? Extra fluffy, extra big kernels of it popped to perfection. Then drenched with the golden goodness of pure sweet creamery butter. Can't you just taste it? We heat the container extra high, but you better buy 2 more for the rest of the family. Piping hot, golden buttered popcorn at the refreshment center right now.
It'll be up in lights on Broadway. Come! The 8th wonder of the world!
Wild, weird, wonderful, the stuff for which movies were made. Adventure, to make you wonder if it's true, while your eyes convince you that it is. Truly, the thrill of thrills. Don't miss it this time.
Suppose there's time?
Sure, there's still time to visit our famed snack bar, where we offer a wide variety of good things to eat and drink to top off your evening. Want a suggestion? How about enjoying a treat we're famous for? A refreshing cup of smooth, chocolatey good Jubilee hot chocolate. Such a comforting, special kind of drink, and a favorite with folks of all ages. Hot chocolate goes down real easy this time of night, makes you feel warm and altogether wonderful. Bet you've never tasted hot chocolate quite as good as we make it. Enjoy a cup tonight.
I'm just another trouble. You told me not to come on the boat.
Good night, kid.
Good night.
Ah, that's what everybody thinks who's never been there.
Skipper, believe it or not, there's a little calm. What?
A little... How little?
Hey, kids, how would you like to hear this on the screen instead of the great show you came to see? That's what you sound like. Honest. Please cooperate and do your part in keeping this theater quiet so everyone, including you, can enjoy it. Now remember, lots of adults and kids, too, paid admission to enjoy the show. We must insist on absolute quiet. Otherwise, we will be forced to evict all disturbance makers from the theater. Those asked to leave today will be refused admission to this theater in the future. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully you can all hear me. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Sorry for the delayed start there. I blame Monsters with Attitude for running longer. They're a live stream tonight. But glad that we have, a full house. So many people. Let's see. Where's the chat been? Rex, Doug, Angel, the Roman is here. Zombo. This is awesome. The bride, she's bride sitting over there playing Red Dead. So, Monster Kaiju, Daninsky, nice. Welcome, everyone. For the first time since the end of May, I am not traveling. Nice. Excellent. Queen, hi. And talking about King Kong, which is always a good way to start. Yes, nothing beats 33. King Kong, absolutely, for sure, absolutely, positively. I do like King Kong Escapes, though. King Kong Escapes is a fun movie. The second Toho Kong movie. No, third. Second Toho one. Third altogether. No, fourth altogether. Oh my God, it's been a thing. I have been stupid busy, hence why there's been no actual uploads as well. I am at this transitional phase right now. This is like my transitional month between my between sort of my winter work and my summer work. So I've been doing 4 jobs actually this month, but one of them wrapped up, and the other one is kicking up into high gear, and I just haven't had the time, ambition, whatever, to actually post videos. But we'll see. I have. There's one that I'm working on right now, which is on the 1960s The Mask, Canada's first horror film. Others I should do a summer Kong collection roundup, because I've got a bunch of new stuff from the last time that I did a collection video. And once I finally get the last issue of the Rocketeer, The Island, I want to do a review of that as well. The Kong Rocketeer connection. But yeah, that's all stuff I want to do. Whether I get around to it is another story. But anywho, that's my excuses for not having actually produced much stuff. But we're here for the live stream, so hooray. Hello, everybody. We all love King Kong. Absolutely good, yes, as is right and proper. Hail, Monster Kid. Hail. Hello, Cory in chat. Hi, Michael. Doctor Who was a great villain. Yes. Thank you for the compliments on the collection. King Kong Escapes, but I'm always disappointed there isn't an actual King Kong Doctor Who crossover. The actual Doctor Who. The British Doctor Who. Yeah. I put the mask on. Yes. Nice, yes. Not this mask, right? Oh, where'd it go? Not that mask. The other, the mask. Put the mask on now. Yes, parts of the mask were in 3D. Yes. I wouldn't say it's the greatest movie, but it was certainly interesting enough that I want to do video. I've recorded it. It's just actually finding the time and wanting to use my home downtime to actually work on it is another story. But I've also spent the better part of the last 3 months ill, hence why I had to cancel one of the live streams because I couldn't even talk. But prefer Son of Kong and King Kong Escapes over the Peter Jackson remake. God, I prefer even King Kong Lives over the Peter Jackson remake. Because say what you will about King Kong Lives, at least it's trying something new and something interesting, as opposed to just trying to remake an already perfect film. So, or Doctor Who and Godzilla, for that matter. Yeah, through superior powers of deduction, Doctor Who defeats Godzilla. She tackles some of the Poe adaptations. Do I not have a video about that? No, I did a video. I did a video on the Poe adaptations. Pretty sure I did. Hold on a sec. I'm like 99% sure that I made a video about the Poe adaptations already. And the bride is confirming that she, in fact, also thought that I did. It would have been like a couple years ago now that I did that one. But let's see here. No, not that one. Yeah, the Corman Poe Price movies. I am 99% sure. 99.99% sure, even. Vincent Price starred in several Poe films back in the day, correct. In fact, he's in most of them, except, well, some of the sequences in the anthology films, so Twice Told Tales and Tales of Terror, but not in the Premature Burial. He was not in the Premature Burial, which made it interesting because you can see how Price would have played that role, but I think Ray Milland actually does a slightly better job at it, just in terms of like bringing this quiet dignity to the role that sort of Price's sardonic scene chewing, which is great, but wouldn't have had the same energy with it. So, yeah, why the American International Edgar Allan Poe movies are so great. That was from October 17th, 2023. So I did do a video about them. So check that out. Masquerade Death is one of my favorites. It's okay. My favorite one of the whole series is not a Poe one. It's Comedy of Terrors. Is freaking hilarious. Love that movie. That is, to me, that is Vincent Price at his best. Is Comedy of Terrors. Plus, you have Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff and Basil Rathbone in it. So hard to go wrong with that one. Twice Told Tales, I think, is my favorite sort of straight up one. Premature Burial, I think, is one of my favorite ones. And I have a soft spot for War Gods of the Deep, just because it's like a steampunk movie. So my whole Victorian science fiction, well, that's a phase if it was 20 years long, but my love for Victorian science fiction was met very nicely in War Gods of the Deep. So, what you want about the Peter Jackson King Kong movie? The DVD came with this in-universe documentary about Skull Island, which is cool as hell. I'm sure. Again, I've said before, I'll say again about the Peter Jackson Kong. I can sympathize with Peter Jackson as a Kong fan and wanting to do this homage and doing all the stuff around it, like that documentary and the spider pit sequence and all that sort of stuff. It's just that the movie itself is, I mean, you can't improve on perfection, right? Remember those if somewhat dimly. Nice. I always like The Raven. That one has some comedy, correct? What about Tomb of Ligeia? I didn't care for it as much, I think, because actually a lot of it had to do with the location shooting. One of the things that I love about the Poe series is that it's so lurid. Like, it inspired my lighting scheme here, because it's like all of the Poe movies are just lit in these very lurid tones of blue and purple and green and red, and it gives it this sort of like hyperactive, almost comic bookish sort of vibe to it. Imitated in Creepshow and stuff. So like Tomb of Ligeia was filmed mostly on location, so you don't get that. You just kind of get like, just okay, yeah, it's a cloudy sky or whatever. So I mean, they did have the vibe of like these bright pops of red against the gray and black interiors of the castle and stuff. But compare that to like the color and the set design in like Premature Burial, where it's just all these beautiful lurid tones. So that's where I thought Tomb of Lygia was weak, was just kind of in the aesthetic of it. Otherwise, I mean, it's a good movie. They're all good movies. But yeah, anyway. Um, I Stand by the Raven is one of the best movies to introduce people to more classic horror. That wizard fight is so cool. Yeah, sure. Peter Jackson basically tried to make Lord of the Rings again, but with King Kong. House of Usher is my favorite Poe adaptation. Cool. They make Kong too sympathetic. There was nothing threatening about him. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, yeah, they make him just like a big gorilla. So already that like kind of reduces him to being just like this animal and currying our sympathy for this animal. And then they kind of like go in for that kind of creepy vibe of like, oh, there's a thing between Darrow and Kong. It's, no. I think there is a lot to be said for like how the original, um, definitely balance that we still feel sympathy for Kong as an animal, but he's still terrifying, and you wouldn't want to be caught in the city with him. And he's still like, as soon as he breaks out, like the only conclusion is that they're gonna have to kill him, because he's just too dangerous. Same thing like like where I live, grizzly bear encounters are fairly frequent, and I feel sympathy for the bear, but they're also very dangerous animals, right? So same thing with Kong. Like you can't go too far in one direction or the other. Um, and then I like, I like how the MonsterVerse, for example, was a. They still have sort of Kong as the hero, um, but at least he looks right. Like he looks like he's not. He's simian. He's an ape, but he's not like a gorilla exactly. So. I think my favorite might be the Haunted Palace because I consider myself more of a Lovecraft fan than a Poe fan, even though I love both equally. Yeah, Haunted Palace is just about as good as it gets, I think, for a genuine Lovecraft adaptation, done under the guise of being a Poe adaptation. Um, it did a good job of not showing the monster, which a lot of Lovecraft movies can't stop themselves from doing. And like my favorite Lovecraft movie is Call of Cthulhu, like the one that as if it was filmed in 1923, like the pseudo silent movie version. It's not exactly what a silent movie from that time period would have looked like, but I appreciate the attempt, and I have like the Cthulhu. I have one of the Cthulhu statuettes from it, or the limited edition replicas they made, number 41 of 50, in fact. But it's sort of neat as like an artistic venture, whereas like Haunted Palace is like a genuine attempt at a movie that I thought was probably as good as it gets in terms of Poe, or in terms of Lovecraft. So, plus you got Vincent Price, you got Lon Chaney Jr. and oh crap, I suddenly can't remember the actress's name. Deborah Paget, I think she was the one. Who are all great in it. So, I blame the downbeat ending for Jackson's Kong not being well received. I mean, it's it's Kong's ending, so it is what it is. Common Terrors, though not exactly Poe. Yes, but Jackson Kong was too long. Oh my god, like. It is my go-to example of how brevity is actually really good, and just because you can go overboard doesn't mean you should go overboard. Like I actually matched up like scenes when I've posted about this, that like a scene that takes about 3 minutes in the original movie is 15 minutes in Peter Jackson's. Like, oh my god, dude, seriously. Problem that I have with Jackson's film is Jack Black can only play Jack Black, and the Dino Charge and Fight of the Vines did the film no favors. Yeah, the Dino Charge and the Fight on the Vines, that's just the whole more is more sort of attitude. Like, oh, the original had one sauropod, so let's have a whole herd of sauropods. Kong fights one T-Rex in the original, so now he'll fight 3 T-Rexes in the air. Like, just constantly trying to one-up it and make it more, and it just ended up making it less, right? Thoughts on Reanimator? Um, I mean, it's very 80s, like it's of its time period. So, it's that genre of Lovecraft movies where it's like it doesn't feel like Lovecraft. It's like they took sort of the bones of Lovecraft's story and tried to make like an 80s, cult horror movie out of it. So, I don't know. I will say I've seen way too many awful movies to genuinely call the 2005 King Kong a bad movie. Fair enough. I've sat through stuff so much worse. I'd rather watch it 1,000 times more than King of Kong Island once more. No, fair enough. Fair enough. I will grant that. I will grant, in comparison to King of Kong Island. Sure. um, I mean, yeah, it's. Here's the thing. If I wasn't at all a Kong fan and I was just watching this movie straight up, like when I went into Lord of the Rings, I still wouldn't like it because of Peter Jackson's direction. And just everything is so long and everything is so cartoonish in a bad way. I still wouldn't like it. I wouldn't think it's the worst movie I've ever seen. Like, I don't think Lord of the Rings is the worst movie I've ever seen. The bride just cheered. Where was I? But I mean, it just ends up looking so much worse in comparison to the original because it is a remake of a perfect movie that it just ends up looking worse. And you can do such a direct, like, one-to-one comparison about like what is bad about Peter Jackson as a director compared to what is great about the original King Kong, right? So it just ends up looking a lot worse in comparison. But yeah, I mean, I've seen The Girl from Calgary, 1932, twice apparently. So, I mean, that was an execrable piece of crap, that movie. So, I mean, it's sure. Like, I wouldn't say 2005 Kong is that bad, but I mean, it's like, why would I watch it when I can watch the original again? Right? Have I seen The Mouth of Madness by John Carpenter starring Sam? I have seen that. That, I think, is another really good Lovecraft movie, even though it's not like technically a Lovecraft movie. But in terms of like the vibe you want to go for with a Lovecraft movie, I think Mouth of Madness is like as good as it gets for a modern movie. Yeah, that's good, and so many memes as well. Jack Black was so annoying. I hope the dinosaurs would eat him. Fair enough. No Love for the Terror with Karloff and Jack Nicholson. Not really. I mean, it is what it is. It's not great. It's sort of one of those ones where it's like, okay, I'll watch it because I want to watch all of the Poe movies and I want to steep in the whole genre of those Poe movies. So okay, I'll watch The Terror again. But it's not like if I'm sitting down to watch one of them, it's gonna be like Comedy of Terrors or Twice Told Tales or Premature Burial. And then there is a slightly less likelihood I'll watch some of the other ones, right? So, what did I think of Jackson's version of the spider pit sequence? I mean, it was a good artistic attempt. I mean, I appreciate their attempt to do it using the methods of the time. I think it's obvious that it was done by Peter Jackson. Like, everything in it was so drawn out again. And I mean, you can make a good case from it of like why the spider pit sequence had to be cut to begin with from the original film. But even then, like, the original spider pit sequence would have been like a minute, if that. Right? Like, it would not have been a very lengthy scene to begin with. So Peter Jackson doing like a 5-minute version of it or whatever is just like, you can tell that's by him because it's so darn long. So, but again, I think as an artistic attempt to explore this unmade part of the original Kong, I think it's admirable. I get why he would want to do it. It's also like Jason Rausch, I think that's his name, recently released. I've been holding on to this thing forever. Recently released online, like a few months ago. His stop motion of Kong hitting the ground, like when Kong fell off the Empire State Building and wham into the ground. Again, I think that's an admirable addition to Kong stuff, and I could see like a future, if they ever went back to physical media, you have your movie on a little chip or something like that, and them including that like as an official bonus feature kind of thing. I think those sorts of things are like interesting and game homages, right, that add to the whole Kong mythos. But they're not like as if ripped from the movie itself. They bear the marks of the people who made them. Skip the sequels to yeah. I saw The Terror with my family in theater for my birthday this year. They hated it, but tried to say it was of its time to be polite. But no, it's just bad, and I love it. Yep, that's fair enough. You can just say something's bad. The worst thing a movie can be is boring. If a movie is bad but it's entertaining, like Plan 9 would be the archetypal example of that, right? Like Plan 9 is one of my favorite movies, and I do not pretend it's a good movie. It's an almost good movie, but then it fails hilariously at every possible step. But at least it's entertaining, right? I would rather watch Plan 9 over and over again than like a gazillion Oscar-winning movies. It's because it's like, no, those ones are boring. That's like the worst thing you can be. The Oscar bait type ones, yeah. God, I can't believe Slumdog Millionaire won that year and Dark Knight was not even nominated. That's my go-to of how the Oscars suck. Slumdog Millionaire was transparent Oscar bait, while the Dark Knight didn't even get considered because it was a superhero movie. Anyways, asylum film should be avoided at all costs. Yes. I did like the environment and Naomi Watts, but that's it. Naomi Watts was like the only redeeming thing about the Peter Jackson. I think there is one called Ape vs. Dinosaur, blatant ripoff of King Kong vs. Godzilla. Yeah, that's Asylum for you. LOTR is not the worst. I think we're wearing him down. The Terror is in the public domain. Yep. Yeah, I have it on like 2 or 3 different DVDs. It's public domain. Woot, never thought he'd even give it a not the worst. We are wearing him down. It was it was all that Muppets Lord of the Rings talk. That's what got it. Muppets Lord of the Rings. That's how poorly received it was. Yeah. Some of the Spider Pit models wound up in the Black Scorpion. That's the rumor. That's the rumor they ended up in the Black Scorpion. And certainly some of those models do bear a resemblance to it. But as somebody pointed out in the comments of my big video on whether or not the Spider Pit sequence was ever made, pointed out that there's an awful long time between Kong and the Black Scorpion, so some of those models may have deteriorated anyways. So they might be like recreations of some of them and not the actual original. So I don't know. But I do think that the Black Scorpion is probably the source of people who claim to have seen the Spider Pit sequence. Like, oh no, I remember, I saw it on TV. No, you didn't. You have a false memory, probably from the Black Scorpion. Which I went to length to demonstrate some false memories that I ended up having about where I conflated a couple different movies together in my childhood memory. But there's people with the claws, the trapdoor spider, yep. Remarkably, Jack Nicholson was in The Terror. Jack Nicholson was in a lot of AIP movies because his father was one of the owners of American International. So he was nepotism. Jack Nicholson got into film because of nepotism. We're slowly getting Cory to like Lord of the Rings. No, I didn't say like. I said not the worst. So you might begin to say it's tolerable. I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually seen it, so. Oh, and Ashley wants to punish me. Ashley, the bride wants to punish me with the extended edition too. Here's this movie that Cory didn't like, so let's make him watch more of it. Well, if it makes more sense, that'd be great. Jack Nicholson was also in The Raven, correct? I would have liked to see Kong fight the Triceratops herd and have the Arsenitherium attack the Venture crew. Yeah, like if they had actually filmed everything that's in the book, it would have been cool. I say with like a bit of a tone shift in my voice, just because it's like, again, Kong is such like a perfectly paced movie. It's so well done. It's so perfectly paced that like they knew what they were doing when they pulled all that stuff out of it. So on the one hand, would it have been cool to see more dinosaur stuff and explore Skull Island more? Yes. On the other hand, would it have made it a better movie? No, probably not. So, but that's what the book is for, right? In your imagination, you can go back and in still photos and stuff, and the promotional stills, you can look back and imagine this fuller Skull Island. In fact, the stop motion project I would love to see someone do is, as an homage, is like 1933 Kong versus 1933 Scar King, and it's Kong defeating Scar King that makes Kong King Kong. I would love to see like somebody animate a little short like that. Have you heard about all the negative publicity around the new Supergirl? I have heard some of it. I've heard that it's negative. I have not paid too much attention because I still want to see the movie, and I don't want the anti-hype to spoil my view going into it. I want to give myself a fighting chance to actually enjoy it before I hear all the flaws everybody else found in it. That said, though, I don't have super high expectations. I didn't for Superman either. I just wanted to see it because I'm like a DC Comics guy. And I ended up liking Superman. It wasn't a perfect movie. It wasn't like the best movie I've ever seen, but it was fine. It was entertaining. So we'll see with Supergirl. Mainly, I want to see it just because I enjoyed Superman well enough, and I am an old Lobo fan as well. In fact, actually, just the other day, I was my parents dumped a box on me of my old stuff, and it was all comics, and so I was packing through them and found all my old Lobo comics in there. So like the first like 3 or 4 Lobo miniseries and stuff like that. So, which I was almost gonna buy the Lobo compendium of DC put them all together into one big book, but now that I found them again, don't have to do that. So it was a lot of my old like original Justice League International comics and all this sort of stuff in the 80s and 90s. So I do want to see Jason Momoa as Lobo. That's like the number one thing I want to see. Stream pitch. Binge watching a bunch of Asylum level King Kong knockoffs like Zillafoot and King of the Lost World. It depends what the public domain status of them is. But I did actually watch a lot of like the 70s knockoff movies. Because like, again, 76 Kong, same problem, right? You're trying to remake a practically perfect movie, you can't do it. I am of the rare breed that thinks King Kong Lives is even better than a remake of King Kong. Just because, at least for all of its flaws, it's trying something different. So I ended up like Ape and the Amazing Peking Man. I ended up enjoying those more than like King Kong. Queen Kong, yeah, is an acquired taste. So Queen Kong is like it's because the ostensible humor in it, is very dated. So it's very disco era. So disco stew. So yeah, it's kind of cringy. In fact, one of my hot takes is that at this point in my life, having seen enough movies and lived long enough to regret it. Rocky Horror Picture Show I find kind of cringe at this point. That's because I find like any of that disco era sort of stuff is kind of cringe. So Queen Kong kind of falls into the same vibe as like Rocky Horror. But yeah, I mean, I've had the thought of like doing public domain movie streams before, of just we can hang out and watch it and joke about it and whatever. But again, it's like, when do I have time to do that? So let's see. Next up, Muppet Kong. Yep. Yeah, Muppets King Kong. Well, I mean, there's I showed the Springbok puzzle, right? So there's your Muppets King Kong right there, you know. So Piggy as Fay Ray, yes.
There's only one girl character.
Kermie as Bruce Cabot's character, yes. Fozzie as Carl Denham would seem to be the right course of action. Gonzo is the cook. Yeah, that's how I would do that. And then, of course, when they're in the theater and showing Kong, that's when you have Statler and Waldorf, right? So there we go. It always comes back to Muppets now on this live stream. There's no controversy. It's a huge bomb. Yeah. One of the biggest bombs of the summer so far. Yeah. Supergirl actress attacked the audience just before the movie came out, which is always a good strategy. If you are making a movie in Hollywood, make sure that you... Whoa! Sorry. It's adjusting so people can actually see my stuff. Always make sure you attack the fans, right? Otherwise, your movie might be a success. We don't want that. You don't want to give the chuds the satisfaction. So, Supergirl needed a kaiju sequence. Would have made the movie much better, probably. Supergirl flopped hard. Yeah, that's what I hear. I know people are bashing Supergirl, but I'm still excited to see it. It's based on one of my all-time favorite comics, and Jason Momoa is perfect for Lobo. Yep. Yeah, I can't imagine anybody else who would be a decent Lobo. So, skipping Supergirl, maybe I'll see it on the high seas for free. Yeah, I love Superman so much. After I left the theater, I bought a ticket for the next showing. Oh, nice. I hope Pirates Life for me. James Gunn's Superman made me cry like a baby 3 times in the first viewing. Yeah, it was pretty decent. It hit the right notes for like an optimistic Superman. The Mighty Peking Man is very underrated. I actually have the first issue of the Lobo miniseries from like 80s or 90s. In near mint condition. My friend's dad gave me a huge bunch of comics he bought, thinking they'd be valuable. Nice. Queen Kong the musical. Ironically, some of them are, and he just doesn't know. There's also an animated King Kong that's also... Yes, I did a video about the animated King Kong musical starring Jodie Benson, The Little Mermaid, and Dudley Moore, with music by the Sherman Brothers. On paper, it should have been good. In fact, in reality, it was not, sadly. Neither was the Broadway musical. So what the hell? Is a good King Kong musical even possible? What is the title of the video? The point of Rocky Horror is that it's cringe. You get together other people to shit on it. Yes. I have seen it live, with the full toast being flung and everybody in the aisles dancing the time warp and all that sort of stuff. I have done that. I remember Kong survived his fall from the Empire State Building.
Didn't your version?
In the cartoon, it did.
No, I meant your version with the girls on the plane.
Oh yeah, no, Kong still fell off.
Oh.
Yeah, he still died. So the bride was just like, Kong survived in your alternate ending with the girls dancing on the planes. But no, he died in that one too. So, that's what he does. That's what Kong does. But yes, Kong fell off the Empire State Building but lived in the animated musical. Animal should be Kong. Yeah, Sweetums is Kong. Yeah. Well, they did that in the original Muppet movie. When Sweetums gets like huge, gets embiggened. There's sort of like Kong references in that. Fay Ray is referenced in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, correct? In fact, in the song, whatever happened to Fay Ray, but also the radio tower there on the stage that Rocky, carries Frankenfurter up is an homage to the RKO logo. James Gunn needs to be fired. Drew First Blood, Supergirl or Chuds. Ursula goes kaiju size at the end of Little Mermaid, correct. What? Ursula? Yep. Ursula's officially a kaiju. Also, if you haven't read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, you should. That shit is like on the same level like Superman Up in the Sky and All-Star Superman. Ooh, really? Well then, I guess I should. I've been getting into the little like digest-sized DC comics. I think I mentioned this last live stream. So I picked up. Where are they? I got a bunch of them. Hold on a sec. Let me just grab them. So, yeah, The Long Halloween. Read that. That's fantastic. Deceased was fun. I wouldn't say it was great. New Frontier was freaking amazing. And then I have the Gotham by Gaslight one as well, because Victorian science fiction. I used to have the Gotham by Gaslight, like the actual trade paperback for that specific one, but a while ago I go through these cycles where I get rid of stuff and then I have to buy it all back again. And so I gave most of my superhero comic stuff to a coworker of mine, including Gotham by Gaslight, and including like a first printing of The Killing Joke, which I hope he enjoyed those hundreds of dollars I gave him. But yeah, these are great. Actually, I love these. They're like, it's not quite what I've said DC should do, which is like they should put like Archie digest size stuff, like reprints, like just at the supermarket at the checkout, and I would absolutely dead ass buy those. These are pretty close. They're like 13 bucks Canadian, 13.50 Canadian, 10 bucks US, which is fine and cheaper than a magazine nowadays. And yeah, it's like a full trade paperback of some pretty darn good comics. So they're also, I think it's IDW is doing something similar. Yeah, IDW. And they have some of their Godzilla comics and the Rocketeer comics in the same digest format. So I kind of want to get my hands on some of those too. There's Animal who got big in the original one. Okay, Animal, sorry. Why did I think Sweetums? Thanks for the correction, Rex. Didn't like Gunn's take on Superman. Oh, fair enough. Most comics today are horrible. Yeah, that's why like most of the ones I'm getting are ones that are like 20 years old. I got an autograph from one of the actors from the original Toxic Avenger. Cool. I do think people are way too hard on James Gunn's DCU. We are 2 movies in. Let him find his footing. Yeah, let the man cook. I agree. I mean, it's what I am appreciating about it so far with what I saw in Peacemaker and like Superman is James Gunn's not too terribly much older than me, so he has a lot of his reference points are the same generation of like comics that I read growing up, so it's a lot of similar tone. Like Superman very much had like that post-crisis 1980s DC sort of vibe to it. Like yeah, Mr. Terrific wasn't a character then, but just the vibe and the characters he's bringing in and all that sort of stuff very much fit with that kind of vibe, which I appreciate. And it's just, there's room for all sorts of different takes on these characters. You can go serious, you can go silly. I like both the Dark Knight and the Batman and the Adam West Batman series. I like Batman the Animated Series, which I think is the best version of Batman, and I like Batman the Brave and the Bold, which was ridiculous. I liked both Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go. So just very different, but for different reasons. So I think there's a lot you can do with these characters, and I liked Man of Steel. I even to a degree liked Batman versus Superman. It's not the sequel I wanted for Man of Steel, but it still did touch on a lot of the stuff I thought they should have. So it was just too much fast tracking, like gotta get the Justice League in there. But I thought Ben Affleck was great as Batman. So I mean, I like the Zack Snyder stuff, but then James Gunn is exploring a different way. He's exploring it more in this sort of lighthearted, optimistic, colorful, very 1980s version of the DC universe. And then you got Matt Reeves, like, how dark can it be? Let's make Batman black on black. So the screen is so dark, all you hear are footsteps. So there's lots of different ways of doing these characters, and yeah, give the man some time to cook and see where he goes with it. I have a friend who owned a comic shop. Sadly, he had to shut down. God, I feel sorry. I genuinely feel sorry for comic shop owners and movie theaters, because their entire business model depends on what somebody else is producing, and if those other people are producing crap, then you got to try and sell crap, and nobody wants to buy the crap, and it's your business that suffers, right? Like I genuinely feel sorry for comic shop owners and movie theaters. Have you seen that strange 1970s movie Bye Bye Monkey? It starts with Gerard Depardieu walking along a New York beach and finding the corpse of King Kong and the ape's orphan son. I have not heard of this movie. How have I not heard of this movie? Hold on a second. Let me Google that for future reference. Bye Bye Monkey. 1978 film. It's an Italian-French comedy drama film. Directed by Marco Ferreri. Starring George Depardieu. It's about a man who finds a baby chimpanzee in a giant King Kong prop and decides to raise it like a son. It's filmed in English, shot in Long Island, New York. As this was a French-Italian co-production, French and Italian dubbed versions were made for their respective countries' theatrical releases.
I know about that. How do I know about that?
I don't know how you know about that. The bride is like, she knows about it apparently, somehow.
I don't know how.
The film is set in a darkly surreal and dystopian version of New York City that is mostly devoid of humans and populated only by rats and a few eccentrics. Lafayette is a young French electrician living on his own in a basement. He works for Andreas Flaxman, the cynical owner of a waxworks museum. The museum is dedicated to recreating scenes from the Roman Empire. He works alongside his friend, the sculptor Luigi Nocello. Nocello maintains the varied and often macabre wax displays, such as the crucifixion of Jesus and the assassination of Julius Caesar, which fill the museum.
I've seen this movie.
Beside the Hudson River, a mid-construction site of the Battery Park City, Lafayette meets Luigi and a band of eccentrics. The group finds an abandoned baby chimpanzee in the palm of a giant King Kong sculpture. Lafayette decides to adopt the chimpanzee. He brings the chimp with him into the museum. Flaxman warns him that the chimp will rob him of his freedom if he does not get rid of it.
Children?
Yes, his child. That's what children do.
Not precisely, but we don't have any.
Okay. Well, interesting. I'm going to have to watch that.
I don't know why I've seen it.
And the bride has seen it, apparently, and does not know how. So, there you go.
French class?
It might be French class.
Oh, that sounds too fun.
I have been enjoying a lot of comics lately. The new Power Rangers is good. Same with Captain America, and of course the Energon universe. Well, Energon universe is freaking great. I see in like Transformers groups people whining about like Alita Prime and RC Magnus, which should be RC Magna, but let them cook. Like I think they've earned it. Let them cook. And now they're going to be doing like Mask and ROM are going to be part of the Energon universe as well. So that should be interesting. But yeah, like you got to make more flops. Well, everyone's movies are variations of Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, he certainly has his style and sense of humor. Guardians of the Galaxy was actually a rip-off of Farscape. Oh, you're fighting about that now. 3/4 of his DC projects have been successes. Supergirl's the only one that under his run so far to underperform. Not even bomb if you look at the numbers. Superman should have he's gone to $1 billion easily. I have not. Sorry, the bride was reminding me of something that I need to talk about. I genuinely despise Snyder's take on Superman. Making Superman an inherently Jewish character, a Christ figure, is just a bad idea, and he doesn't like Superman. It's interesting. Superman has a lot more in common with Moses than Jesus. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, still made several times his budget back. He was literally created by 2 Jewish men. His origin story is literally based on Moses. Adjusted for inflation, the Christopher Reeve Superman sold more tickets worldwide. Recently watched the 80s Conan, the Barbarian movie. It was really good, and James Earl Jones killed the role. What about Samson? He was famous in the ancient world for his vast strength. Yes, that is true. Well, it's not famous in the ancient world. It's in the Bible. Samson's a biblical character. Conan was Schwarzenegger's best role. Yeah, well, I mean, Samson gets easily misunderstood because it's very much rooted in these specific Jewish practices and sort of folk stories and stuff like that. But speaking of very strong men, we did see Masters of the Universe. That's what the bride was reminding me. We saw Masters of the Universe and enjoyed it. I don't think there will be a sequel because it apparently also bombed. It's so sad, but it's kind of reminded me of The Lone Ranger in that it would have been nice if it had more story to tell, but it still can function as like a prequel to the franchise as we know it. So the Master of the Universe movie can still function as a prequel to the original cartoon, more or less. The Lone Ranger can still function as a prequel to the original radio show and the TV show and all that sort of stuff. So it's but yeah, Masters, it was fun. Had good music, fun action. It moved along pretty briskly, I thought, for the most part. There's a couple awkward spots, but they perfectly placed hey, what's going on? The end, when it just turns into an homage to the cartoon, is fantastic. Love that. Yeah, it was okay. It was decidedly okay. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was I don't regret having seen it, which is more I can say for some movies. Are Hercules and Samson the same person? No, they are not the same person. All right, so Samson. Okay. First of all, Hercules is a demigod. He is one of Zeus's multiple children with multiple different people. And because he's a demigod, he has like the strength and all this sort of stuff. Samson is a different situation. All right, so Samson is actually situated historically in what's called the period of Judges. So that is the period after the Hebrews, they've left Egypt, they've wandered in the desert for 40 years, they've entered into Canaan. After the collapse of the Canaanite city-state. So this is a late Bronze Age collapse. The Canaanite city-states fall, and then in the archaeological record, you actually see these new settlements appear in the hill country that are decentralized. Like there's no central palaces or like courthouses or temples in them. There are these decentralized communities. And then eventually those sort of do end up centralizing in Jerusalem. That becomes the seat of power. So that's reflected in the Bible, where, you know, under Joshua, the Hebrews enter Canaan, the Canaanite city-states collapse, and the Hebrews occupy the land, and they sort of merge with the Canaanites and sort of stuff. And they live in this sort of decentralized sort of communities, but they're being attacked by other people, mainly the Philistines, who are this invading army from the ocean. And nobody's exactly sure where the Philistines were originally from, but they're the sea people. They're another name for them. So whenever the Philistines come in, God calls forth these people that are called judges that become sort of like these temporary leaders to deal with individual crises. So it's very like anarchic sort of system where it's like, you know, you have these leaders rise up temporarily to solve a specific problem. And so that's the historical background that Samson is in. And Samson, he is, a human. He's fully human. But his parents take a Nazarite vow. So the Nazarite vow is a vow that consecrates a child to God. And part of the vow is like that the Nazarite will not cut their hair and they will not imbibe drink and all those other little rules going on. And we see these Nazarites pop up periodically through the Bible. So like John the Baptist was a Nazarite. And so was Samson. So that's where the haircutting part comes in. As long as you're under the Nazarite vow, you don't cut your hair. So in sort of biblical quote unquote folklore, however you want to look at it, often Nazarites will have some kind of different gift, whether that's a gift of prophecy or in Samson's case, a gift of this tremendous strength that he can use to like single-handedly fight off the Philistines. And so the Philistines, they concoct this plan, like we can't physically defeat Samson, he's too strong. So instead, they send Delilah to seduce him. And taking advantage of the fact that even though Samson was consecrated as a Nazarite, he's not himself the most like pious guy. He's kind of arrogant and succumbs to vice. He's very naughty, as the bride just said off to the side here. So Delilah seduces him, and when he's sort of drunk and unconscious, she cuts his hair, which signifies the breaking of that Nazarite vow. And as a consequence, he loses his strength because the vow is over. The vow is broken. So he loses his strength, and he gets captured by the Philistines, and he gets strung up in the Philistine temple. But at his lowest point now, Samson prays to God and reconciles that relationship and kind of, in a sense, rekindles that vow, at least long enough that God gifts him with this tremendous strength that he can use to push out the pillars of this Philistine temple and collapse it on top of the Philistines and himself, and he dies in the process. So he's not Hercules. It's a whole very specific cultural thing that Samson is going on. Now Hercules, though, he is alluded to in the Bible, in Genesis. So the first 11 chapters of Genesis, that's the mythological part of Genesis, right? That's where you have the two creation stories. So there are two. The first one is the 6-day creation. The second one is Adam and Eve. So you have the two creation stories, the fall. You have what are called the Nephilim and the flood and the Tower of Babel. And then it passes into sort of the cultural history story with Abraham. Now, the Nephilim, they are these beings that are created when these rebellious angels, they go to Earth and they mate with human women. And it produces these sort of mutant creatures that are renowned for their strength and their feats or abilities. In short, these are like the demigod heroes of other mythologies, right? So your Achilles and your Zeus and all, or not Zeus, but Achilles and Hercules and all those sorts of characters. All of these like half divine characters, these half god characters. That's what the Nephilim are. And the existence of the Nephilim is actually like a proximate cause of the flood. So in ancient Hebrew cosmology, sacredness is a function of separateness. So if you think about like how in the creation stories, how are things created, right? God separates things. He separates the sky from the water. He separates the land from the water. God is holy because God is separate from creation. the Jews are holy because they are separate from the Gentiles. Um, and that's the basis of things like the kosher dietary laws, that land animals walk, water animals swim. So when there's something in the water that walks, like a lobster, that's creepy and gross, and that is breaking the separation between land animals and water animals. So this idea of separateness is important in ancient Hebrew sort of cosmology and theology. So you have these divine beings, these angels, they come down, they mate with human women, they create these hybrid creatures, these demigod heroes of other mythologies, or Herculeses and stuff like that. And these are abominations. That's what, in fact, literally, that's what abomination is in Hebrew, is something that is mixed. So mixed fibers, lobsters, pigs, those are abominations because they're things that are mixed. They're ritually unclean. So it creates these abominations, and then God is like, well, we got to screw this. We got to start over. We got to get rid of these things, and mankind is all going haywire anyways, and that's what causes the flood. And the flood itself is the breakdown of the separateness, right? God created the land by separating the water from it. So what happens in the flood? The water comes pouring back in, right? The entire cosmology breaks down because the sky opens up, the land gets inundated, all this rainfall. So the sky, the land, the water, that all ceases to be separated. It becomes these primordial waters of chaos again. The whole system breaks down. So that's where Hercules is mentioned in the Bible. It's not directly, but it's in this, this reference to these abominations that are these semi-divine hero figures of other mythologies. So, which I think is hilarious because, the Bible, the Old Testament, as we know it, was written. It's based on stories that predated, but it was written during and after the Babylonian exile. So, when the Jews are taken captive as slaves in Babylon, so much of the Old Testament is a reaction against that, and a reaction against the ideas of empire, imperialism, colonialism, all these isms. A critique of power is what you find so much in the Old Testament. So this mythology about the Nephilim is a critique of power in the stories of these divine heroes like Hercules and Achilles and that sort of thing. So, there you go. That is me dusting off my theology degree for you there. Pulling that out again. So, there you go. Where were we? Right. He-Man. He-Man's alright. So there's no Conan. Yeah, fair enough. He-Man is kind of funny because, it's a product of the 80s, right? So there's this whole generation of kids, like myself, who didn't grow up with classical mythology as such. We grew up with Transformers, G.I. Joe, and He-Man. And they do have mythic things about them, right? There's mythic themes in Transformers. There's mythic themes in He-Man. But it's not like high fantasy. It's not Tolkien. It's not the Ring of the Nibelungen or anything like that. It's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So it's this very sort of simplified and kind of stunted version of mythology. Even Conan, which himself was still invented the 20s, 10s, 20s. Is still hews closer to mythology than He-Man does. And He-Man started as a Conan toy line that they couldn't get the license for, so they just made this new thing out of it. So He-Man is a corruption of Conan, which itself is a corruption of Lord of the Rings and stuff. So I don't know, Beast apparently is a big Master Universe fan and might just pay for more sequels. That's actually what I've heard, is that even though Masters didn't do well theatrically, Bezos doesn't care. Amazon, that the amount of money they spent on it is like a drop in the bucket. And it just means content for Amazon Prime. They didn't even have to release it to theaters, and they could have just put it on Amazon Prime. So I've heard that yeah, it really doesn't bother them that it didn't do that well. But I would be surprised if we saw a sequel, at least in the theaters. Maybe like a She-Ra show on Amazon Prime or something. But I fell asleep halfway through. Fair enough. Jared Leto was surprisingly great as Skeletor. I mean, he could have been played by anybody. Um, there was no sense like this is Jared Leto. It was just like, oh, this is Skeletor. I don't even know who the actor is. Whatever. And he was great. There were a couple little moments where it's like, he's using too much like slang that's too close to modern Earth slang. Um, he did call He-Man a boob though. So there was that. There's actually the best scenes with Skeletor is at the end. He gets inside of He-Man's mind, and he is living through these flashbacks of He-Man's, Adam's uh, life on Earth, torturing him with these memories of his inadequacy on Earth. And so there's this one scene of like Skeletor pumping iron in a gym, which is funny. And then there's another scene where, early in the movie, Adam is in HR being told that he has to get his shit together and stop being such a weirdo. And then Skeletor comes sauntering in, and he's dressed like, he's got like a shirt on, dressed casual. He's got, dress pants on. He's got his cup of coffee, his lanyard, his tie with little skull or little buttons on it. And he's just like, what is this place? What is going on here? And it was like so funny. But it was so good. And basically he was trying to attack Adam's feelings of inadequacy, um, which was like Adam's whole like, the part in the hero's journey where the hero is almost defeated and he kind of comes back from the abyss and with the new power. That's that whole part of the arc. But it was actually really funny. It was really good. I thought Leto actually did a good job as Skeletor. We're supposed to praise okay. We are when that's the best you can get. Okay should be encouraged when the alternative is awful. The alternative is garbage. We should praise okay. As long was it entertaining? Yes. Okay, great. and that's really like honestly as much as I would ask of a He-Man movie. He-Man is not again high concept, high fantasy. It's not Lord of the Rings. It's He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, a toy line from the 80s. So same thing like Transformers. I love Transformers the movie. That is like my Transformers. I was there with Transformers from the beginning, 1984. I was there when the old magic was written. But like I was a little bit older by the time 1986. I was 2 years older. Um, so like Transformers the movie imprinted itself on my memory, the original animated film, and it does have a lot of mythic themes of coming of age and passing the torch and the weight of leadership and um, and all of these sorts of all these mythic themes in it. The purpose was to kill off the old toys so they could bring in the new toys. That was the purpose of it. It just accidentally has all of these mythic themes because back then they were better writers. Um, but don't forget, this is not Lord of the Rings. This is Transformers. This is not Lord of the Rings. This is He-Man. So this is the 1980s for kids sort of simplified version of these things. So yeah. Superman isn't based on Moses. He's based on Doc Savage. They both are named Clark. They both Forks of Solitude, North Pole. Man of Bronze becomes Man of Steel. Voila. Yes. It's like those generations of pulp characters, right? So like Batman is a plagiarism of Zorro, and Zorro is a plagiarism of the Scarlet Pimpernel. So it's same thing, like Superman is largely a plagiarism of Doc Savage, who Doc Savage is a plagiarism of it, but John Carter of Mars mainly. um so you get this lineage of these pulp characters, right? So But Superman does have those echoes of Moses, certainly. He's set adrift in a basket, right? But and he does have those reflections of sort of like the Jewish immigrant experience. But he's not like direct one-to-one to Moses, like the Godzilla anime is. So, but yeah. Samson was a result of miraculous birth. Yeah. Ancient times back then, he slew 100 Philistines at the jawbone of a donkey. Yeah. Is a Nazarite vow the reason why Amish people have beards? No. Okay. Sorry if that's a dumb question. I have a few blind spots when it comes to religion. Fair enough. Figures he was fooled by a woman. No comment. Fascinating story, sad ending. Hercules had a tragic ending as well. The Nephilim begot giants. Where you lost it. Where was it? Sad ending. Okay. I'm confused that a men too horny joke or a women bad joke. Not trying to judge. I just diagnosed actually have autism and trouble understanding certain jokes. Goliath was a descendant of the Nephilim. Just adding a little irony. Interesting, both Hercules and Samson slew a lion with their bare hands. Yeah, it would take a powerful man to kill a lion. Yep. Isn't there a young Earth creationist conspiracy where the ancestors of modern humans descended from giants? Yes, there is. It's keeping in mind, okay. Creationism is all over the place because creationism isn't a coherent ideology. It's not a coherent belief system. It's not a coherent scientific theory. Creationism is a form of sophistry. It is a type of argument. It's not an ideology. So creationists don't really believe anything. Creationists just have an argument. They have a debate. And they just say stuff. Whatever sounds good at the moment that they hope will lead back to their particular interpretation of Genesis. Sorry if I'm offending any creationists in the audience, but so be it. So creationism can be all over the place in terms of what they actually believe. And there are strains of creationism. If you want to find it, the Lost World Museum on Facebook is a good example of this one. Where they believe that Adam and Eve were giants, not Nephilim. And people, like, even other creationists are like correcting this guy. that's dumb, and that's not what the Bible says. But yeah, he believed, well, he's dead, his wife is taken over now, but that Adam and Eve were giants, and they were genetically perfect, whatever that means, and that and lived for a really long time, and that after the flood is what changed everything. And now humans were small and were genetically degraded, and we only live for like 80 years and whatever. So there is that strain of creationism that does believe that Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel and all of them were giants. It's not correct. It's not even what the Bible says, let alone if you interpret what the Bible said literally. Even Tarzan used a knife, correct. For the Amish, some is of the Old Testament readings, but mostly since they don't wear jewelry, etc., are a modesty. Therefore, they can't wear wedding rings, so facial hair is the outward expression of I'm taken. Oh, cool. I like the cartoons better. Thou shalt not eat surf and turf. Yeah, actually, yes. You shall not. If you keep kosher, you're not supposed to eat surf and turf. Big fan of She-Ra, He-Man's sister. Yep. If it had a cartoon in the 80s, I was in on it. Ramasca's interesting. Yep. It was. Thank you. He-Man was inspired by Conan. Yeah. Conan was a violent film not suited for kids. Correct. That's why they created He-Man toy line to make a version that would appeal to kids. Too much comedy in the He-Man movie. I mean, it was definitely tongue-in-cheek, but I also think, like, can you do He-Man seriously? Should you do He-Man seriously? What would be the point of doing He-Man seriously? It's not like it's high fantasy. So, Actually, Conan predates Middle-earth by far. His first appearance, Conan was 32 and Hobbit in 36. Oh, interesting. Why can't we have serious movies anymore?
We did such serious movies for a while there.
Well, I mean, the Snyderverse is pretty serious. The Batman is a pretty serious movie. Like, how can we make Batman even darker and more depressing? And I liked it. I liked the Batman. The Joker, like the first one, not the sequel, not the folly of two, but um, the first Joker, I wouldn't say was a barrel of laughs. Um, the Dark Knight, I wouldn't say was a barrel of laughs. I think serious movies are out there. Just He-Man is not the place to look for one. I can't wait to watch the He-Man movie. It looks like a blast. It is a lot of fun. I think you get more out of it if you're more familiar with the original material. So there were parts like I was laughing at that the bride and her brother weren't didn't get because yeah, most of them, but not all of them. Just because like that's what I grew up with. Like I grew up with He-Man, so there's more you can get out of it if you're more familiar with He-Man. Everyone wants to do Marvel movie now. That's true. I grew up with dinosaurs, Star Wars, Disney movies, DreamWorks movies, kaiju films, B horror movies, etc. Despite being a 2000s kid, you had a very good upbringing. Somebody, somebody was very responsible and raised you well. um, yeah, I mean my upbringing was probably actually more limited than that in a lot of ways. So because I grew up in that golden age of the 80s cartoons. So the media I grew up with again was Transformers, GI Joe, He-Man, Gem, Mask, She-Ra, um, Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, Ghostbusters, both the original the movie and the real Ghostbusters cartoon, um, reruns of Rocky and Bullwinkle and the Flintstones, um, like that sort of stuff. Um, in comics, I go down to the convenience store, the supermarket, where they sell a comic rack, and getting like the DC comics immediately post Crisis. So that sort of stuff. As a teenager, I got into like Lobo and Spider Man and X Men and Batman the Animated Series and stuff like that. Star Trek was a thing when I was a kid, although it's sort of like that. I kind of hit that like little in between time where there were the original series movies and then Next Generation started up. Deep Space Nine hit when I was a teenager, and at the perfect time. Deep Space Nine is still my favorite Star Trek. Um, so I have to admit, I was not raised on the classics. I was raised on Transformers, GI Joe, and He-Man. I discovered, and I had Godzilla as a kid as well. Not a ton of it, but enough to like it, and I had VHS of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster and whatever. But most of my monster and kaiju and stuff like that is stuff I discovered as as an adult. Mainly as a goth kid. when I got into goth, that was then my gateway into like the older movies and stuff like that. Why can't He-Man be Lord of the Rings? Because He-Man. Okay. Here's the thing. Could you do He-Man as a very straightly played epic fantasy like Lord of the Rings? Yes. You could.
Why?
But then the question is why? And, like, that's partially what they tried with the first He-Man movie. Now, granted, it was done on a shoestring budget, which is why most of it takes place on Earth. And it was in the wake of Star Wars. So you see that echo in there, that echo between Skeletor and Darth Vader and stuff like that. But it was trying to be a very serious take on it. And it was kind of like, why? If I wanted high fantasy, I would want like a remake of Lord of the Rings. Or I would want like Wagner's, The Ring of the Nibelungen. An adaptation of that. Like I have the Blu-ray of, Fritz Lang's The Nibelungen. Or Conan. There's another version of Conan coming soon. Those would be, stuff that is already serious and has those more serious themes. Whereas He-Man, what you're kind of forced to do is you have to actually expunge a lot of the source material and rewrite it as this serious epic fantasy with characters named Stinkor and Beastman and Extendar and Mechanic and He-Man and Trapjaw and stuff like that. In the new movie, they actually play up the fact that those character names are the names that Adam gave them in his memories. When he was a kid, a 10-year-old kid, he's arrived on Earth and he's drawing all these people that he knew, and he's giving them these names of Fisto and Ram Man, stuff like that. And it's like, that's actually a great way to sort of lampshade all of that. That they've got these kind of like dumb names because they were names invented by a 10-year-old. Um, you know, can you imagine, the serious, the serious, heartfelt, slow motion to Enya, self-sacrificial death of Fisto? Like, I don't know. Maybe. As Ram Man defends the gates of the Citadel with Manny faces. Like, I guess, but I don't know. It's just one of those things, like, it's also okay for things to be fun, right? And He-Man gets to be fun. Lord of the Rings gets to be serious, I guess, would be sort of how I would say it, which is not to mock the point you were trying to make, Queen. But just like, He-Man might not be the best franchise for that, like Superman, Batman, you can do lots of different variations of. He-Man is kind of written into what he is. My favorite version of He-Man, though, if you want one that it's still for kids but it's more serious, is the 2002 version of He-Man. That is still my favorite version of He-Man. It's a perfect remake of the original cartoon, because it keeps a lot of the charm, but better animation, better stories. And it made me a fan of Stinkor. Stinkor's origin is crazy, and I love it in the 2002 cartoon. It would take something called good writing. Animated Transformers was the best version. Yeah, which one? Which animated Transformers? The original. See, here's the thing, right? Like, the original Transformers series, 1984 to 1986, it's practically unwatchable as an adult. Like, I pop it on occasionally out of nostalgia, but oof, sometimes it's painful. Like, just with the poor quality animation and the 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 scripts that aren't always the best writing, shall we say. Whereas the original movie is fantastic. The movie is actually really good and it still holds up, and I'm glad, so that I can still enjoy it. And I've even like made converts to like, this movie's actually pretty good, Cory. Like, yeah, thanks. So like, the original one is practically unwatchable, except for the movie. Beast Wars I have not watched since I was a teenager, but I remember it being decent. I didn't really watch any of the anime ones. So, like, Robots in Disguise and the Unicron Trilogy, I didn't really watch any of those. I didn't watch Prime. Only just recently watched Transformers 1. It was okay. There were parts I liked some of what they did with it. I didn't like other parts of what they did with it. And then the Transformers animated, like the TV show, done very much in the style of Teen Titans Go. With kind of like that chunky animation and stuff like that. I actually really enjoyed that, because it was fun and it was new, but had a lot of homages to the classic stuff without being just a retread of the classic stuff. So like, it's a case where like the Ark transforms into Omega Supreme, and I'm like, I clapped when I saw it, but it wasn't just like a retread of the original stuff. It was something new and creative, different ways of using it. But still had those homages. So I enjoyed Transformers animated. And then the live action movies are whatever. Nuts to those. The main villains had catchphrases like "Nya" in the cartoon. It's not the film, you should be asking to be more serious. That is correct. Exactly the point I was making. Yes. Yeah. The fun of Skeletor is that he laughs maniacally and calls people a boob and stuff like that. Like that's what's fun about him. Doc Savage helped inspire Superman. Yeah. They actually did a storyline in the cartoon where He-Man thought he had killed someone accidentally, and the guilt forced him to renounce his identity as He-Man. I vaguely remember that. Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. I got diagnosed with autism like 2 weeks ago. But jokes on my doctors, I knew that since my middle school English teacher said I have autism. Well, congratulations on your diagnosis, Rex. It's good to know. It is good to know for sure so that you can get what you need. So, that's good. Yeah. Like me and my depression, the bride just mentioned. Yes, I should have been on medication for that like 30 years ago. Yeah. Some of the episodes of He-Man and She-Ra were genuinely good. Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying they're bad. But just it's not an inherently serious franchise, so why would you want to make it like super serious? Flat Earthers have left the chat. People probably found dinosaur bones and believed they came from giant humans. Yeah. That's why He-Man failed. My guess is that one Lost World Creation Museum guy is white supremacist Nazi guy. That has been a specter that I have pointed out as well. It's like, what exactly do you mean by genetically perfect? He-Man was a parody. I don't know, parody, but certainly it was for kids, certainly. So I didn't like it. I hate when people complain we don't have serious movies anymore. Even in the 80s, they would make one-liners in action movies. There were jokes in most Arnold and Stallone movies. Oh yeah, God, there's been like memes out of Predator. Like Predator's Predator, but like, you know, got in AEW wrestling, there's this tag team called the Outriders, where their big move is where there's the guy laying on the mat and they're standing on either side of him and they do like the whole thing, you son of a bit, like like that's out of Predator. That's a meme, right? So yeah, He-Man is an outdated IP. Most people today don't know it. That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. He-Man is for 40-year-old men and their wives. Where is it here? I lost the... Yeah, outdated IP. Thanks, Pink, my parents, for my upbringing. Perfect. Your parents did good, Monster Kaiju. It goes back to everyone trying to marvelize everything. I grew up with Showgirls, Transformers, Dinosaurs, Power Rangers, old cartoons, Tokusatsu, a bunch of films no child under the age of 10 should watch. Indeed. They're all looking for that Marvel money. Yep. Any advice on making friends? No. I wish I knew. Please tell me. Please tell me. God. My advice on making friends is much like my advice on dating, which is you have to develop a personality. Like there's the whole I'm slipping into dating advice, but you know, there's a whole like nice guy thing, right? And I have been in that trap where like you think just having decency, being a moral person is the same as having a personality. People will like you if you're moral. And that's not true. And painfully so, as many a person who laments about the fate of nice guys. Being decent is not a personality. It's your personality you want to cultivate. And to cultivate a likable personality, you know. So, not saying it's a cookie cutter sort of thing, but people have to want to be around you, like you, think that you are a person of substance or a person of good humor, you know, that you have interesting things to say, that you have considered opinions about stuff, you have a developed perspective on life and the universe and everything. But not as the bride pointed out, but you're not going to eat them, and you're not using that to lord over people like a first year philosophy student. that you're also, the being a decent person is where, yeah, you're courteous and you listen and you are polite and you can be firm and have convictions, but you're not being an asshole about it. That sort of stuff. But that's sort of like bare minimum of what you would hope for in a person, anyways. It's not like a personality. Um, which is why, like, the lament of the nice guy is that women they'll always go with the jerk. No, they go with the guy who has a personality. Even if he's a jerk, they will still pick someone with a personality over someone who might be nice but doesn't have a personality. Um, because it's the personality they're attracted to. So develop a personality, and it works for friends and it works for partners as well. And easier said than done, Cory. Like, I know, I get it. Trust me, I get it. I spent many a year with the idea that just being a nice guy was the same as having a personality, and it was not. Um, when I got into goth in my late teens, that was sort of where I really started nurturing a personality, or more. Well, like I said, nurturing a personality. So of course everyone has a personality, but sometimes your personality is ass. So when I went goth, that's when I started thinking about my personality. Because, goth is this whole lifestyle thing, right? And you end up cultivating and nurturing certain aspects of who you are through this expression. So you start thinking more about it, and that's where you start developing it more. And I mean, it's still, God, through most of my 20s, even, it was like, Cory is mainly the nice guy. Um, and I compensated a lot with my sense of humor, which I don't know how much it comes across on my life. I'm actually a very funny person. Thank you very much. But I use humor a lot to compensate. But at least humor is like something. You got something, right? And then my developing in my faith and my education, which then gave me perspective and things I could talk about in a discussion. Hey Cory, what's your opinion on this thing? Like, here, I can actually give you like a considered opinion on it. That is unique to myself on my own perspective on life and everything, and my education and whatnot. And it's still something I struggle with. I'm not a great friend. I have friends. Most of my friends like my wife better than they like me. But she just said it's not true. But I don't, because of my trauma growing up, my complex PTSD. Like I still, in the back of my brain, have this thing that says people don't like me and people don't want to be around me because I was a dweeby nerdy geek for most of my young, like, my childhood. So I didn't have many friends and got beat up and bullied and stuff like that. And then once I got into goth, then I had the whole, like, okay, I'm coming into myself as like this like queer goth kid. And that is a whole other set of problems, right? Assault and harassment and whatever. So that has all had a toll in terms of, like, I don't necessarily feel like people want to be around me. I do find it amazing that you guys all tune in. That you guys all think I have something worth saying and worth listening to, that you'll be here for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours once a month. It's pretty remarkable, so thank you, everyone. I still, in social situations, will kind of be a little bit more like pulled back, just because it's like I do have that worry in the back of my head. If I expose too much of myself, people won't like me. So that means I don't make friends that easily either. So I'm one of those people. There is like a sort of an atmosphere of people that I know, but in terms of close friendships, it's only like a very small handful of people. That even then I only talk to like every few months. So So anyway, point is, not the guy to ask about how to make friends. Sequence on Earth ruins Superman. Okay, how about a movie with some actual substance to it? That'd be nice. New Hope wasn't a comedy. Fair enough. There's a reason He-Man bombed. Let's have dirty jokes in He-Man movie. Don't be like my uncle and show your 9-year-old nephew Nukem High. Oh, good God. No, do not show children a trauma film. New He-Man is pure garbage. Okay. Kids won't buy the toys if the movie is too campy. If the filmmakers don't take it seriously, they won't either. That is true. But again, kids don't buy toys anymore. 40-year-old men buy toys. So, like, there are Transformers for kids, but most Transformers are bought by people like my age. But I was in the Transformer store today. So, I mean, like, the He-Man toys. And, well, we don't have Toys R Us in Canada anymore, or at least in Calgary anymore. Those all closed down. But, I see the He-Man toys at the GameStop, and I never see kids looking at them. I see 40-year-old men looking at them. So, the kids are buying Pokemon cards. That's what the kids are buying. So, or on their phones, yeah. Didn't like how they killed off Moss Man for no reason. That is true. But Moss Man's like an elemental, so he could just come back. Didn't like the character that was proud for bullying Adam. Yeah. So glad He-Man failed. Every superhero film doesn't have to copy Marvel. No, that's true. People are sick of those films, yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't think people are sick of the Marvel formula. I think they're sick of what happened after Endgame with, like, unlikable characters that nobody knows and nobody cares about. I really think they missed it. They missed it hardcore by not ending Endgame with a post-credit flashback scene to the 60s with the birth of a mutant. And then, take a year off, plan out the next wave, and have used the next wave after Endgame to introduce mutants, leading up to X-Men as, like, the wave-ending thing, like Avengers was the wave-ending thing for the previous ones. And have X-Men and mutant-related stuff as, like, the deep, topical, serious movies, and then introduce Fantastic Four as, like, the wacky, gonzo, crazy stuff. And then have, like, the big end game of the next, like, 3 waves be Galactus. And it's, the Avengers and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and all them fighting Galactus. That would have been how I would have done it. And I think they really missed a trick by not realizing that, hey, Disney, you bought back the X-Men. Use them. Like, geez. Like, we wanted to wait and give, let people forget the Fox movies before we... No, everyone wanted to see X-Men in the MCU. And your new version of X-Men. So they dropped that ball. People wanted to see X-Men, not the freaking whatever those guys were, the whatever the crappy one. What was it? Starts with an I. I can't even remember the name. I don't know, like Immortals or Infinites or whatever the fuck it was. Pardon my French. Yeah, nobody cared about that. Nobody cared about Captain Marvel. They could have used Spider-Man to introduce, his amazing friends, like Firestorm and not Firestorm, Firestar, and Iceman. They could have had a Weapon X movie. They could have had, like, a Vision and the Scarlet Witch movie where they established that the reason why the Tesseract could give the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver powers is because they were already mutants and Magneto was their father. You could have established that. You could have had, at the end of each movie, where they're introducing mutant characters, have Magneto and Professor X recruit them into their respective teams. Like Nick Fury was, and yeah, it's repeating the same thing just with mutants as opposed to Avengers, but freaking Marvel was a formula anyways. So if you're going to do the formula, just do the formula then. Just do the formula again, but with X-Men. And people would have been fine with that. So, and do it well. But no, they had to be all like freaking Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel and all these other franchises nobody gave a crap about. And we're all girl bossing too close to the sun. So, whatever, anyways. The Star Wars I grew up with specifically was the most OG Star Wars trilogy, with an occasional prequel trilogy. Nice. That is good. There is only one Star Wars trilogy. What are you talking about? The original trilogy, the original theatrical version of that, and Andor. That is Star Wars. If we count it, my favorite versions of He-Man is the Netflix She-Ra. That is rare. Rewatched it recently, forgot they had implied. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, the Netflix She-Ra was certainly, that was controversial. Didn't really like Rise of the Beasts. Yeah. Very inappropriate for kids, yeah. I think my favorite Transformers show is either animated or Prime. Fair enough. Didn't like the Netflix She-Ra either. Oh, lost it. Where was it? Blah, 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 blah. So you guys were talking while I was going off on a rant, and now I got to catch up to where you guys were. Monster's also autistic. Netflix is trash. Or Beast Wars holds up pretty well other than the animation. Yeah. Black Arachne is my favorite character in Beast Wars. Yeah. In fact, she's the one that really... She was the breakout of that. She's the one that's been in like every version of Transformers since, pretty much. Martin's here. Hey, Martin! Was your depression caused by how bad Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies are? It wasn't helped. Wasn't helped by them. Well, I don't think it was the cause, but it wasn't helped. Valeria was killed in Conan the Barbarian. He lost the woman he loved. It wasn't all laugh and jokes. And there are most modern action films. You just refuse to engage. The new Supergirl movie was afraid to kill off the dog. Well, don't kill off Crypto. Crypto was like the best part of Superman. Don't kill off Crypto. No, it said afraid to kill off the dog.
Still spoilers.
As in didn't kill off
I know, but still.
well, who thought Crypto was going to die?
I didn't. But
The British today are untalented and lazy. That is correct. Part of the problem is that, the good movies, up through the 80s and 90s, were written by people who had life experience. And a lot of movies today are written by people who have entertainment experience. All they've consumed, all their life experience is just the consumption of other media. So what do they have to write about? Like their identity or something. And that's not interesting. That's why I like that joke about so much of modern media is just therapy for the writer. Because that's all that's interesting to them is themselves. They are the most interesting subject to themselves. As opposed to genuine exploration of the human condition, which you can only learn about through experience. They don't have experience, so they don't know the human condition, so it just becomes this personal therapy session, and it's terrible. So yeah, that's why I don't even... I mean, I've actually seen some movies in recent memory, which is more than I can say for a lot of previous years. Still prefer older stuff. They didn't kill the dog in the comic either. It would go against the themes of our story that hope will win out. Yeah. Haven't seen the new Supergirl because the trailers made it look like trash. Fair enough.
Eternals.
The Eternals. Thank you. God, who cares? I can't even remember the name of it. I freaking remember the name of the Eternals, so who cares? Like, nobody wanted that. People wanted the X-Men. The dog wasn't in the comic. How it's hard to remember it. The dog was never going to die. Total blasphemous to say that in everyone's ears, but I can appreciate you having the balls to say that. What did you say again? Dansky. Oh, Lord of the Rings. He's in all the merchandising, yep. So we're doing advice for the Lovelorn, yes. Because it's the same advice, because friends and lovers, it's a lot of the same. In terms of, like, why are people drawn to you? Why do people want to either be your friend or be your partner? And that is because you have a personality that they want around them. And yeah, you have to develop your personality. That's really the ticket. The entire plot of the comic is Crypto gets poisoned and Supergirl looks for a cure. This is the comic.
Okay.
Also, she teaches a little girl about revenge while kidnapping her. All right. Had a girlfriend that was being pestered by an ex. We had to get some friends to intervene. Oof. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. That should not happen. Yeah. That's the the dark side of like when you don't have personality or your personality is ass and you get obsessed over other people because you want them to give you what you don't have. It's affection or self-esteem or whatever. Um, and that really dark part is like you're entitled to it because I love you. I'm so nice to you, bitch. Why can't you like fucking? It's like no, you're not a decent person. You are trying to find something in other people that you need to develop in yourself. And if you are at the point where you're stalking people and stuff, you need like actual like therapeutic help. It's not just like yeah, it's not something you can do alone at that point either. Like you need actual help. I think in terms of making friends, don't start fights. Be entertaining and be the one to initiate. Also confidence, but not to the point of giving yourself a huge ego. Yep, all those help.
Yep.
Um,
Everybody is screwing it up.
well, we'll pass on that question, Rex. Sorry. She murders the antagonist after lecturing the girl and telling her killing is wrong. She can kill him in the comics. She imprisoned him in the Phantom Zone. Can never give him spoilers. As someone who has read this comic 1,000 times, none of what you're talking about happens. Uh-oh, fight. Fight. Had a little humor and it was mostly serious. Flash Gordon had campiness and it never got a sequel. Yeah. I haven't got chance to watch the new H-Man movie. How is it? He-Man movie? We were just talking about that. I liked it. I thought it was entertaining. It wasn't, great filmmaking, but it's He-Man. It's not supposed to be cinema. It's He-Man. It's an entertaining movie that functions well enough on its own as like kind of like a quasi prequel to the original cartoon. So if you are of the generation like me, where you grew up with He-Man, I think you'll enjoy it. Unless you want it to be dark and edgy and serious, in which case you will not enjoy it. No, people are sick of Marvel films. It's a joke. Flash Gordon is a good analogy. Do I really need the X-Men again? I think. Okay, here's the thing. I collected X-Men from basically Mutant Genesis up to Age of Apocalypse. I stopped collecting when Age of Apocalypse ended because I was just like, I'm done with this. I'm done having to buy every single X-Men title, and that's when I started going goth as well. So it was like moving on to New Horizons. Nowadays, X-Men is ass. They're all like these creepy sex pervert pod people living on some sex island thing or whatever. And they're all like racist mutant supremacists because identity. So X-Men is crap now, but X-Men of the 90s was kick-ass. And there were a lot of storylines from that time period and before, Chris Claremont, 80s X-Men and stuff, that were never really explored in the live action movies that were made, like the Bryan Singer ones. They did kind of like some kind of attempts at them, but nothing really substantial. And I think that if you want to do X-Men as sort of your topical, socially conscious movies, like the closest one I could think of in the first pre-Endgame ones is Winter Soldier. Captain America Winter Soldier, which has all sorts of these themes of like government and surveillance and all sorts of stuff. I was actually Winter Soldier is like the closest Captain America movie to a real movie. So in fact, it's the closest Marvel movie to a real movie. If you want to do X-Men like that, there are lots of stories you can draw from. The Mutant Massacre, God Love, Man Kills, Extinction Agenda, stuff like that, where you could make very interesting stories with a well-selected cast of X-Men, that would still be interesting and would not really overlap with the Bryan Singer X-Men movies. Like, there's some core things you have to have. You have to have Professor X and a Cyclops and a Wolverine and a Jean Grey. But there's other X-Men you can use as well. I mean, for me, Rogue, Gambit, stuff like that. Bishop could be an interesting one to bring in as well if you do it right with the whole like future thing. I think there could be good X-Men stories told in the Marvel Universe, the MCU, if it was done well. That's the problem, is that they are not going to do it well. They're not capable of doing it well right now. And God forbid they do any of like the Krakoa saga, because that is that's where X-Men has gone off the rails now. And everything that I've seen. Again, I have to admit I haven't read it all, but I'm familiar with what has happened. And it's like, nah, they're like these weird soulless pod people now. And mutant supremacists and stuff. Like, X-Men has become everything that X-Men was supposed to be opposed to, in terms of like, we're the chosen special people. We're better than everyone, and on our weird creepy sex island where we're pod people. No, like, that's not X-Men. That's sacrificing X-Men to the identity politics of people who think Magneto had a point. It's like, no, Magneto does not have a point. So yeah. But then, yeah, the modern writers, they would just do like the Krakoa saga or whatever, some variation of it. And yeah, I don't know. And all of that, keeping in mind that X-Men has always been a terrible allegory for different identities and stuff, because, I'm not worried about my Chinese neighbor blowing up the block when he sneezes. Whereas in mutants, that's a very valid fear. So it's a whole other situation with mutants, and that makes the allegory a bad allegory. But I recognize that now as an adult, right? When you're a kid, when you're a teenager, and nobody understands you, X-Men is great. As an adult, you understand why it's not that effective of an allegory. And the fact that mutants have always been their own worst enemies as well. All the worst stuff that's happened to mutants has been because of mutants. So the Mutant Massacre, that was done by mutants. The Legacy Virus was done by mutants. M-Day was done by mutants. Moira McTaggart is a mutant now. Like, it's just, all the worst stuff has always been the fault of other mutants. Yes, I meant Eternals. Thank you. How about something new for once? Yeah, new is great as long as people actually support it. And that's the thing. Hollywood has never been original. Why start now? I mean, that is true. All those Universal monster movies and stuff that I love were all based on books, right? King Kong was an original concept, but even that was like loosely based on the Lost World, right? So Hollywood has always gone for the perception of guaranteed money by stuff that already has a following, right? Books and cosmopolitan serials and things. The Eternals were nothing like they were in the comics. Yeah, the same boring characters over and over again. Yep. So these movies are flopping. Yeah. I like the spider that shot machine gun bullets out of its legs. That was cool. That's Black Arachnia. Yeah. Movies have no sense of realism anymore. How the shot machine gun bullets out of its legs? That might be. Are you thinking? Is that Transformers you're talking about, Angel? The spider that shot machine gun bullets out of its legs? Because is that Black Arachnia or Arachnid you're thinking of? Movies have no sense of realism anymore. If you're curious about the no, that's fine. Oh yeah, Adora and Catra in bed. Yeah. And it cuts to someone cutting a piece of paper with a pair of scissors. Oh god, that was in a kid's cartoon? Come on. It goes back to the fact that the writers today are terrible, yes. Did you go see the Backrooms movie? I did not. I heard it's now in the top 10 highest grossing horror movies, but knowing your opinions on modern horror, you probably don't care. That is true. I did not see Backrooms. Totally inappropriate for a kid show, yes. Even the cops didn't want to get involved. Men do not take rejection very well. No, they do not. Well, neither do women. No, people, okay.
I said neither do women.
The bride said neither do women. People generally do not take rejection well. There are people who take it better than others. And there are people who take it especially badly. And when those people express outwardly, that can be a big problem. I would not say I took rejection well, but I always internalized it. In fact, there was this girl. This is whole saga. I don't think I've ever told the bride this one. So when I was in university, there was this girl that I was like just completely goo-goo for. And she absolutely had my number. And the even my chaplain was like, I need to meet this girl because she is like, she's got you, man. But I never actually dated her. It just never ended up like it always kind of like just yeah. But she was the type of girl that would always have like this cloud of men around her because she was just really outgoing and really gregarious and stuff. And I stopped hanging out with her when I realized I was one of those men in the cloud. I'm like, whoa, fuck this, hell no. And then I only found out later that she actually was interested in me too. But then you got all weird. That's when I backed off. So I was kicking myself for that one. It would not have worked, incidentally. I have the wisdom to recognize that it would not have worked. I am not the kind of guy who wants to be with a girl who would have a cloud of men around her. Not out of jealousy, but just out of like that kind of meshing of personalities, right? Anyways.
That's good.
Yeah. But she said actually one of the reasons she was interested in me is because she knows that if we were to break up, that I would just F off. Because she had a problem with guys who would not F off after they broke up.
That's not a good reason to get with somebody, though.
And, well, I'd like to think the bride just like, that's not a good reason to get with someone. I would like to think, to my credit, that it's part of an overall personality thing that reflects on my stability and maturity. That's what I would like to think. But, yeah, so it's like I internalize. I don't talk to any of my exes. There was one that I had this weird kind of on-again, off-again thing with that we stayed friends afterwards because we just worked out better as friends than as partners. But I don't even really talk to her anymore. I haven't talked to her in years. Which the bride is like, good. Oh, darn. But yeah, like I don't stay friends, or I don't even stay in the picture after I broke up with someone. But other people are, they don't take that. They don't take it well, and they express it outwardly, and it's, they're scapegoating and they're blaming the person who dumped them, and for some reason think in their head they were going to get them back or get back at them, one of the two. And that's not a healthy situation at all. Just call the police. Don't take chances. Yep. Supergirl's awful. Reason to flop. They ruined He-Man. Now I'm worried for She-Ra. I should have said She-Ra will ever get made. Yeah, I don't think She-Ra's going to get made. The end of the Krakoa arc a while ago, actually. Yeah. Good. Yeah, I know they rebooted everything because was it they found out that Moira McTaggart's a mutant and that she reboots the universe periodically? And that's why you have X-Men from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and whatever, and it's all actually just a rebooted universe or something like that. That Moira's been the cause of much of the X-Men's woe for like every incarnation now. I don't know, whatever. Creepy sex island bullshit. I do appreciate. See, this is the one thing that the Krakoa arc accomplished, besides making me, I can't even be nostalgic about X-Men, and the fact I used to like them at one time, is Doctor Doom telling the mutants they're full of shit. And like telling Professor X to his face that he's full of shit. Doctor Doom became my hero right there. So that was like the one good thing that came out of it, was that Doctor Doom became a good guy. Yeah, when Stan Lee began the X-Men, it was just the good mutants versus the bad mutants. Yeah, and in fact, the whole mutant thing, he just started because he couldn't be bothered to think of an origin story. In fact, there's no adjective X-Men in some of the best comics. In fact, the no adjective X-Men is some of the best comics in general. All the social justice stuff came later. Yeah, that is true. X-Men was actually a copy of Doom Patrol. Yep. Both teams had a leader who was in a wheelchair. According to... where'd it go? According to Stan Lee, Professor X and Magneto were directly based on MLK and Malcolm X, so maybe you just... No, that is retconning. That is Stan Lee retconning. There might have been some vague influence, but I think that social justice stuff came later. If you read the original X-Men comics, it's very subtle. It's mostly good guys versus bad guys. You know, Magneto robs banks and stuff. And the mutants was originally just Stan Lee couldn't be bothered to come up with origin stories, so they're born with superpowers. But you know, it's like all things, right? Once you establish that baseline, then you can actually work with it and build it up and build on. Like, oh hey, this whole born being a mutant thing has parallels in race relations, in gender relations, in issues of sexuality and identity and stuff like that. It has those parallels, although they're not perfect, as already discussed, because I'm not worried about a gay neighbor or a Chinese neighbor blowing up the neighborhood. So, very observantly, it's all invented. They were actually based more on the Fantastic Four. Beast was the Thing. Iceman was the Human Torch. Beast used to tell jokes at the beginning. Hey. Where are we? Yeah, to be honest, the concept of originality in storytelling is inherently a lie, and stories are also influenced by the real world. Yep. They started using big words, and he became furry. Men actually became violent. Witnessed it. Yep. Frankly, by the end of the show, the Netflix She-Ra was barely for kids. The main plot was characters had to stop a genocide. Fun. Some guys do go crazy. Yep. Netflix She-Ra was horrible and unwatchable. They did a bad job with He-Man as well. I went to high school with this girl who stabbed a boy who didn't go with her for prom. Yep. Girls can do it too. It happens more often with men because testosterone. But women can also be very violent. Sad how some of the situations turn out. Yeah. Relationships are very complex. You take your chances. Gentlemen, do not stick your dick in crazy. How do we get on this subject? That's a good question, Roman. So glad I found out I was a AAA battery of queer people before high school, because I know I would have been in a bunch of unhealthy relationships. Yeah, it's good to figure yourself out before you make mistakes. X-Men was just another comic at one point. Yeah, I think they broke out during the Neil Adams era. Chris Claremont, I think, was the one that really developed the X-Men in that direction. What if the retro dinosaurs are actually the result of convergent evolution? Ooh. Even Stan Lee didn't know who the characters were when he started. They changed the beast several times over the years. Somewhere along the way, he became a scientist. Yeah. Yeah. The bride just added, most artists don't know what they're making when they start. That is true. Yep, the book just kind of takes on a life of its own. But yeah, whew, there, caught up to the chat. Finally, oh my god. You guys got me going off. Well, that's good. That's what this is for, right? And I'm happy to be here, meeting up with you guys here once a month. Having this chit chat about stuff. Movies, religion, relationships, whatever. X-Men and identity. Have we seen another movie? No.
No.
Supergirl just came out.
This week.
Yeah. He-Man was the last movie we saw. Before that, it was like Dune. Like, I don't know. The Bride's Friend. Superman was the previous movie, yes. Yeah, I think Superman was the last movie we saw before He-Man. I think so. Looking forward to? No, not really. I mean, I want to see Supergirl. I want to see Dune Part 3. Was there one I thought looked interesting? Hmm. I'll have to think about it. I'll have to see what's coming out. Sorry, we're having a discussion about what movies we want to see.
I saw Sheep Detectives.
Ashley saw the bride saw Sheep Detectives,
That's fun.
which she said was fun.
It was cute. It was very cute.
This was an interesting segment. Yeah. I'm reliving just now. 40% of my friends have been stabbed, and the other 40% of friends have stabbed people. Okay, so there is a missing 20%
That's it.
who have neither stabbed nor been stabbed, which one would hope is the normal state of things. More people should be in that 20%. Stabbed people who deserved it, like pedos and rapists and nuts. Oh, that's good. I think we mentioned Kong a few times. That's correct. Did you like season 2 of Monarch Legacy? I have not seen it yet. I have not actually seen Monarch Legacy of Monsters because we kind of we're kind of starting this cycling through streaming services. So we got Netflix, so we could finish like Stranger Things and watch a few other things. But we've been tardy in canceling it, so we can get Amazon Prime, or no, sorry, Apple for Monarch, and Amazon Prime to watch like The Boys.
Yeah, the boys.
So we need to like cycle through those and do the sort of classic thing of you buy the streaming service for a month, watch like mainline what you want to watch, and then cancel it again.
Monte Cristo.
Yeah. Except for Disney Plus, we keep that around for some reason, even though we barely watch it ever. It's just free money we're giving Disney. Let's see. Do you know King Kong 76 was the most merchandised version of the character? Yeah, I mean, up to like MonsterVerse, I would say. Really? I know, like, Kong 76 was more merchandised than the original, certainly. Because the original, that was like spread out over decades of merchandising. And the original came out before merchandising was really a thing. So I can see 76 being like the first version that was like heavily merchandised. But was Kong 76 more merchandised than like 2005 or MonsterVerse? I don't know. I'd have to. Okay, Queen, if you are collecting Kong 76 items, you need to do a video about it. You need to do a video about Kong 76 stuff and work out how much stuff came out for Kong 76 versus later versions. Sheep Detectives looks fun. Yeah, she said it looks fun.
It was fun.
The missing 20% are fan fiction writing lesbians, some of which are on Discord somewhere. Kong 76 is a mediocre film. Yeah. Well, it's trying to remake a perfect movie, and that's not really possible. Sheep Detectives has much better reviews than I ever expected. That's why I didn't see it. Not because of reviews, just because the trailer was like, I don't think I'm the audience for this. So, yeah, and the bride just said I'm not. So fair enough. And she said, in the most loving way, she said it's not for me. No, I'm okay with stuff not being for me. Not everything has to be for me. I recently bought the Viewmasters reels of 76. Oh, cool. Neat. There's a animation Facebook page that has been posting like the Flintstones Viewmaster reels recently. It's pretty nostalgic. But that's cool. You found the Viewmaster for 76. I've seen some 76 stuff at like local places, like the glasses with the 76 stuff on them and the 76 board game and stuff like that. But I've never got it because 76 isn't part of my collecting thing. So the only Kong 76 thing I have is the Crestwood book back right there. Right there, pointing it right there. The Crestwood book that is about 33 Kong, but for some reason have the 76 Kong on its cover. So definitely more than 2005. That didn't get much merch, I know, because I would have owned it all as a kid. Well, I mean, I seem to recall a lot of merch for 2005, but I mean, I don't know. I can't speak definitively on how much. I know there's like toys and merchandising tie-ins and stuff like that, and I still see Kong, like 2005 Kong stuff all over the place, like in antique stores and stuff. How can she be detectives?
Read the book.
They went to detective school?
It's in the movie.
It's explained in the movie, apparently. The bride just called out. I think it's that their owner, the farmer, like read mystery novels to them all the time.
Read mystery books to them.
And so then when he died, they're like, we know how to do this.
It's a whole arc.
It's a whole story arc, apparently.
It's literally the movie.
It's the movie. That's what the movie's about, is how they become detectives. I think those are theatrical movies. Like online, like streaming movies. You made me watch Enola Holmes 2.
Because he was a wonderful,
Yeah, sure.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
He was very good.
I hated it so much. I could not wait for that movie to be over.
Really good.
Yes, Henry Cavill is fantastic in everything. So he was fantastic as Sherlock Holmes. Yes, absolutely.
He was an introvert.
I otherwise, yes, he was classic introvert. Yes.
He wasn't like a drug addict.
Otherwise, oh God,
I'm so sorry.
can't. I am not watching Enola Holmes 3. I am putting my foot down on that one. Sorry. That's a case of like, this is torture that I have to watch this movie. My wife says she loves me, but oldest item in my King Kong collection is a bendy that is still in the box. Cool. What bendy do you have that is still in the box? Is it like 2005, 76 cartoon, like the 60s cartoon? What's the bendy? Tell me, Zombo. Have a figure of the 60s King Kong. That is something I do not have. I would like 60s Kong stuff. And in fact, the holy grail of 60s Kong stuff would be either the plush that still roars or the whole playset that I think it was Marx made it, where it's mostly generic like Africa playset, plastic animals and stuff, but then you have, it's like a Kong figure with a magnet in his hand, and the human family, the Bond family, are metal, so he can pick up like the Bond family with his magnet in hand. That's like the holy grail. But when I have seen that come up online, that is well beyond my price range. Like it's like buy a car price range. So that's not happening. But like the plush, the bendy, like the rubberneck, whatever, like wouldn't mind getting those. It's just not super high on my priority list of stuff to buy right now. So I think the best Sherlock Holmes movie is The Great Mouse Detective.
Yes.
Yes. Agreed. Which actors would you play? Would you want to play Professor Challenger and Lord Roxton? Who are currently active? That's a thing. Like, weirdly enough, the like really crappy like 1998 version, or no, 92, 93 version, whatever it was, John Rhys Davies as Challenger and David Warner as Summerlee was like freaking perfect. I mean, Brian Blessed would be the best person to play Professor Challenger, but he's like 1,000,000 years old now, so that's not happening. For actors who are active today, God, I'd have to give that thought and have to like Google up like who are actors today, because I don't know who is acting today. I mean, if this is Hollywood, then Professor Challenger would be played by like Byron Tyree Henry, something like that. So, Dan Stevens as Roxton. There we go. He could be a good Roxton, sure, why not? Yeah, I don't know about a remake of The Lost World. You know, years ago, decades ago, I would have been like, yeah. Nowadays, I can't see Hollywood doing that well. So it's sort of like, why bother then? The novel exists, the 1925 film exists, that's fine. So, 60s cartoon, cool. They should do one where the dinosaurs are from a parallel dimension. I think that was the Lost World TV series. And someone finds a way to make them cross over. You should check out the show Primeval. It's basically that concept. Season 2 is a bit weak, but nothing awful. I saw the first season of Primeval because it was done by the same people that did Walking with Dinosaurs. But it obviously didn't capture me enough to keep watching it. Maybe they can run loose and cause havoc. Cool. I was thinking Carl Urban as Professor Challenger. Yeah, could see that. Yeah, grow out his beard. Yeah, he's yeah. We'll go with that. We'll go with Carl Urban as Professor Challenger. Dan Stevens as Lord Roxton. When are we getting Talking Dinosaurs? It's been a long time since we've done like a dinosaur-specific live stream. I mean, we stopped doing specific live streams like, what, a year or two ago? After that disastrous EC Comics live stream, where we talked about everything but EC Comics. Yeah, I haven't done a specific dinosaur one in a long time. It was people who did Walk with Dinosaurs and Doctor Who. Yeah. It's just like Land Before Time. Nope. My dog just yawned. It is age. You're a good girl. It's true. Might have to head out soon. You know, me too, actually. Not this second, but soon. Yeah, not this second. But I do have to work tomorrow. I got a tour to guide, and then I got to go to my other job after that and get someone else up to steam on these tours that we're doing there. So, what would a T-Rex say? Is that a song? No, it's a fox. What would a fox say? Yeah, sorry. I'm hungry. Yeah. Rawr. I did get the a complete, well, eventually a complete Paleotrex fossilizer transformer toy. So where is he? Let me go. Ow. Ow. Sitting too long. There are very few transformers that I will buy new. So I didn't buy this guy new, but I did. I actually had to buy 3 of him to get all the parts to make one. So in the end, I probably spent as much as if I had bought him new. But Paleotrex, yes, part of this is one complete one, but then I also part of the gimmick with these ones is that you can pull them apart and make like armor and weapons out of them. So I actually have parts of the other ones on my Volcanicus, which is the combiner that all the Dinobots make. So he's my Volcanicus Dinobot combiner has fossil armor on. Maybe he would say something philosophical. Oh no! He's lost his chest shield. Over here. That is why I had to buy 3 of them to get one complete one. So, but yeah, I didn't get the fossilizers when they first came out. But if I see them come up in like secondhand sort of stuff, and I'm willing to pay the price for them, then wouldn't mind getting them because dinosaurs are cool. Dinosaur transformers are even cooler yet. Well, in the lore of the channel, I am one. We mostly talk about movies because we're basically all actors. Yep. You'd be a poet. Okay, Rex is out. Bye, Rex. We'll see ya. It's basically almost 11:30 where I'm at, and the convention I went to today was FrankenCon. Ooh, okay, Monster Kaiju. Tell us about FrankenCon. because I have not heard of it, but it sounds cool. So tell us about FrankenCon. Because the closest thing I've come to recently is we have HorrorCon here, but I don't go to HorrorCon because it's mostly modern horror stuff, which does not interest me. But they had a summer market, which is basically just the dealer's room for HorrorCon, and that does interest me. So, went to the HorrorCon market, but not actual HorrorCon itself. So, T-Rex is my favorite dinosaur. Nice. Mine is Pachyrhinosaurus. Not Corythiosaurus, even though it's got my name. But yeah, I warmed up to Pachyrhinosaurus because he's a local Alberta dinosaur. So hope you found some cool merchandise at FrankenCon. Yeah. What did I buy? What did I buy at HorrorCon? Okay. Oh yeah, I got the the Blu-ray finally for Yokai Monsters. So bought that. So I got that finally. I think I bought something else at HorrorCon. Yes. But the Yokai Monsters. There were some cool art prints, but I didn't buy any of them.
You bought Sky Streaks for you?
No, that was at the toy show last week. Yeah. They were at the same place. There was another toy show last week at the same venue. The HorrorCon was 2 weeks ago. FrankenCon is basically HorrorCon and has all kinds of things. Cool. I always make a list of comics I want to buy. Yeah. Did I buy anything else? God, you'd think I would remember the stuff I buy. Yeah, I got Yokai Monsters. Oh, and Vampira. I finally got a Vampira Toonie Terrorist figure. Good go. I think I remember that. Yes. Vampira. Finally got her as well. Which is the closest I'm probably ever going to get to a Vampira action figure. So, I was hoping that somebody would also have the Shock Monster figure that Trick or Treat Studios made. But alas, nobody did. But somebody did have the Toonie Terrors Vampira, so I finally got that. Hooray! So that is good. I'm glad to finally get her, because I am a Vampira nerd now. So, there's all sorts of things you can get. I still like to track down old magazines like Fangoria and Starlog. Yeah. I'm always looking out for famous monsters. So I always check out the magazine boxes in the hopes that they have other cover issues of King Kong for famous monsters. I ended up having to buy that one, the one that goes with the NECA figure. I bought that one off like eBay. And then like Mad magazine. So there's actually the one other cover of Mad that I want. So like I got that one, which is Alfred E. Newman on the Empire State Building. But I also want to find the original issue of that one, which is the Kong as an organ grinder. Well, Alfred E. Newman is the organ grinder. Kong is the monkey. But I want to find the actual issue of that. So, and in fact, I got some issues up here of stuff that I got too. Let's see. Oh yeah, Giant Apes coloring book. And Cracked Collector's Edition. Cracked Goes to the Movies. So I got Kong on the cover there as well. Though the inside, it's a 76 Kong parody. So that is what it is. So I got those recently. I'm going to do, I think, because it's lazy and easy content, my Summer Kong collection tour. Because I obviously have added stuff since the last collection tour video. Like I've got the teapot and the cookie jar now as well from Omnibus in the 90s. And I rejigged a lot of this area over here, so it's this like little tiki village. I got both like fish tank ornaments and also Michaels. They, for their fairy garden stuff in spring, they had these like tiki village, like a tiki bar and a little couple tiki huts and stuff. So I bought them and repainted them and made a little tiki village for Kong hanging out back there. So I've added some stuff and I've rearranged some stuff and whatever. So I think it's about time to do um, another collection tour as well. Plus, my last one I didn't even show off like the paper stuff, like Son of Kong notebook, things like that. So that's an opportunity to show off that stuff as well. So that one will probably be coming. In fact, I'll probably get that done before I even get my actual video on the mask done. Let's see. Where were we? There's also things you can get. Yeah, Penguin Scarlet. It's beautiful. I used to cosplay Vampira years ago. Nice. Famous Monsters is great. Yes, love Famous Monsters. I have back issues of Famous Monsters. Nice. The Basil Gogos covers were always the best. Yes. Those are fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for, like, again, the Kong cover issues of Famous Monsters. I have the classic one that NECA based their figure on, but some of the other ones I wouldn't mind getting, as long as they're like under $50. I think that's kind of my cutoff for those. I think I did see the one. I think it was the Aurora contest issue. It has like the Kong model in the cover, but that was a little pricier than I wanted to pay. So, but the Basil Gogos covers, yeah. And then also, I wouldn't mind finding the original issue of Eerie that this is from here. There's a screw down there, apparently. Ew, my comic. Because this is like a reprint of the cover of that issue of Eerie. I would love to find the original issue and get that framed and put up back here somewhere. In fact, I wouldn't mind getting. Oh, there's a bunch of screws down there. You know that. Screws loose. Like, I wouldn't mind actually getting hanging frames so that I could hang up some of these things, like this guy right here. This is the Shonen Jump issue that I bought there, like however long ago. Like the Cracked issue, the Mad issue. The Famous Monsters I want to leave on the shelf because it goes with the figure. But other magazines would be fine to like put up on the wall. I got that space right there alongside the shelves. So, let's see where to do. Someone tried to republish Famous Monsters, but it didn't take off. Yeah, they always kind of do. But the thing is, like, Famous Monsters was it was lightning in a bottle because of the time period, right? Like, the time period there wasn't any monster stuff around, like in terms of magazines and things like that. There was just this one magazine pops in and it capitalizes on this resurgence of shock theater and horror hosts, and you had the EC comics and that sort of stuff, and theatrical re-releases, but there was nothing that you could keep as a resource of photos and articles and summaries and whatnot. So Famous Monsters comes in and fills that hole and just becomes a runaway success. But today, like, God, the internet exists. So what do you need Famous Monsters for? What do you need to buy a magazine for when the internet exists? So yeah, attempts to redo Famous Monsters like never takes off because that role is filled by forums and Facebook and YouTube and whatever else, right? So now Famous Monsters is sort of it's a dead franchise, but it's cool. Has the hip cool retro thing going on, and I think if they try to make like a web format version, like a YouTube channel or something or whatever, some kind of web formatted version of it, I think that would probably do a little better. than like a print magazine, because nobody reads print magazines. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not the guy that owns it, so whatever. Not know what's getting off my nose. Um, I do think a little bit of like, you know, something like Cracked, which is, lame now, but they're like, 10, 15 years ago, a group of people bought Cracked and turned it into a website and a YouTube channel, and did comedy and satire on that. So, Famous Monsters could potentially go kind of the same route, but again, what do I know? I'm not in charge of it, so whatever. Something earlier is really hard to find. Pretty cool. Did you hear G-Fan magazine just released its last issue? No, I didn't hear that. So it's really hard to find. I have the first issue of Vampirella. Cool. King Kong has popped up everywhere. Yes. Now there's 1,000 monster magazines. Yeah. Still like physical media. I mean, me too. I do enjoy. Well, I do spend a lot of my life online, which my wife realized today is because that's where that's where I'm heard.
Don't say it that way. Don't make me sound so trite.
You're not trite, but just like, yeah, nobody in real life listens to me, but online. Um, but I do. I mean, I still collect physical media. I always try and get Blu-rays and stuff if I can help it. I don't like relying on streaming because streaming stuff can disappear at any time. I love collecting stuff. So there we go. I even have VHS, 60th anniversary VHS of Kong hanging out back there. So yeah. And I mean, Famous Monsters, I've downloaded most of the early issues. Because people have scanned them in. So I've downloaded most of them, but I would love to get like a trade paperback, reprinting them as physical copies. I am almost done, but I'm still collecting the EC comics. It's like Tales from the Crypt and Crypt of Horror. And, what's it? No, the Vault of Horror, the Crypt of Terror. Weird science, weird fantasy. The Path of Mild Uncertainty. The Restaurant of Unease. So, and then I've also been picking up some like hardcovers of other pre-code comics. So, because I found out apparently that the Super 7 reaction like pre-code horror figures are based on actual comics. I thought they were just like, at first I thought they were just like made up like pseudo comics, but no, they're actual comics. So I've been basically just off Facebook Marketplace and stuff. Like when I see them pop up or I'm at a show, I see a hardcover pop up and it's like, $20. It's like done. So reading these old pre-code horror comics that are trying to knock off Tales from the Crypt and generally have better art but not better stories. Yeah. So I'm getting into that stuff, but it's actually comics, because I've been getting back into comic stuff. I've been reading a lot more because I am a Philistine and I read comics, I guess. But also because when I read, I don't imagine what I'm seeing. It's just words on a page. So when I can see a comic, see it drawn, it's more engaging. But whatever. Anyways, let's see. Still like physical media. Me too. Still love collecting stuff. Still like magazines. Cracked was so funny. Very similar to Mad. Yeah. And you remember Crazy magazine? There is an issue of Crazy that I want that has King Kong on the cover, and there is a local used bookstore that has it, and they have it on the wall, and they do not sell the stuff they have on their walls. It's all decor. So they have this issue up there of King Kong on the cover Crazy as decor that they will not sell. I'm like, I have to like beg and plead with the owner sometime. Like, please let me buy this. I'll even trade you like some issue of Cracked if all you want is just like something King Kong. So I would like to get that issue of Crazy. But Yeah, Crazy was published by Marvel. EC had so many great comic book artists. My favorite was Wallywood. Yeah. I I don't know. I appreciate the stat, and Wallywood was the best of them, certainly. But like, Al Feldstein and Wallywood and stuff like that, I get their legendary status, and I do appreciate their draftsmanship. But like, I gotta admit, a lot of the other comics had better art. Like Eerie and Creepy had better art. Even like there's one right now, it's weird something or other, weird mystery. Um, the art is better. The stories aren't. The stories are kind of meh, but the art is way better. Just I don't it's personal taste, I guess. I don't know. Nobody does anthologies anymore. Yeah, although there is Oni Comics has licensed the EC brand and are doing their own new versions of EC Comics. So the main one I remember is Epitaphs from the Abyss. I have not read them because what I like about the old ones is that they're old, so I haven't read the new ones. But they do they are out there. Thank God your wife doesn't listen to you. That's why we get these cool live streams. Problem is she's sitting right there. Probably find it online somewhere. Yeah, I mean I've seen it on eBay and stuff. It's just taking the plunge to actually buy it. I can't. I don't. Most of my grails and stuff like that I want to get, I do see online. It's just a question of when I want to actually take the plunge to buy it. The omnibus cookie jar that I just got, which is this guy here. Don't break it. Don't break it. This guy here. I just bought this one because I have never seen it before. It came up on eBay. I have never seen another one of these before. I looked around before I bought it, and I have seen no other ones. And so usually when I see something that I've never seen before, I'm like, boom, done, snatch it up. That happened with one of these guys as well. These Kong plushies. These are like the Sega UFO catcher plushies. Um, One of them was the guy with the plane, and I was like, holy crap! And like, boom, right away, because I had never seen one before, and I have not seen one since either come up. So that's where I feel like some like impetus, like, okay, I gotta buy this thing. Otherwise, it's like, the issue of Crazy. There's a bunch of them on like eBay right now, so it's kind of like, yeah, I can wait on that one. Um, a couple other omnibus things where I'm like, yeah, there's a bunch of them, like the teacup that goes with the teapot. It's like, yeah, I can wait till it's, I feel more comfortable buying it or whatever, what the expenses are any given month or whatever. Um, so, so yeah, it's otherwise it's like, well, yeah, I could spend a few $1,000s and buy all my grails like right away, pretty much. But where's the fun in that? Plus, I alternate. Right now, I'm buying more Transformer stuff. So, but yeah. You can probably find a lot of. Yeah, I love anthologies. Me too. I love short stories. Very impressive. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, where are we at now? 2 hours and 41 minutes. You ever see Mad's version of Planet of the Apes? I don't think I have. I've seen the issue around, or an issue around where it's like Mad visits the Planet of the Apes or whatever, but haven't actually read any of the stuff. But yeah, what time is it anyways? 9:47. It's almost 10 o'clock my time, which means it is probably getting time to draw this to a close. It's very ambitious. Because I gotta work tomorrow. So, yeah, we're gonna let's draw this to a close. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. As always, we will reconvene here at the end of July. For now, adios, sayonara, arrivederci, etc., and so forth.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.